Hello, my name is Tony Gonzalez, and I'm here to talk about whether soup is a drink or is it a food? What do we consider it? So think to yourselves, have you ever wondered before, is soup something that you drink, or is it perhaps something that you eat? Would you consider soup to be a hot beverage, or maybe a hot meal? There's a lot of disconnect from here, and a lot of the definitions are very unclear as to how to properly address the consumption of soup. So, from what I believe, um, grammar should be always properly used. It's a good thing to exercise and follow up on and keep up with. Correct grammar should be used in everyday language just to make your point, get your point across, and really put a stand in your position from whatever you're discussing, whether it be soup, being a beverage, or perhaps even a meal. Though the contradicting thing about this topic is, again, the proper way to correctly address it. Now, soup, as we know, can be seen as two different things. It's all a matter of perspective. People understand soup as a drink in some cases, believe it or not, due to the fact that it is in liquid form. In their defense, most liquids, as we know, uh, such as water, tea, soda, juice, anything else, those are all served in containers such as cups or glasses, and then are drank from there. And any other kind of solid food is actually put on a plate and chewed and then swallowed, considering it being eaten. Now, when you look at soup, you can see soup as being a liquid and think to yourself, oh, whenever I'm consuming this product, this item, I would say that I'm drinking it. I'm going to consider that as me drinking this thing. But then you look at the fact that soup is not quite a beverage. It is more closely related to being a food. So where I stand in this is that you eat food when you are hungry, and you drink a beverage when you are thirsty. This is something that's quite understandable and easy concept to grasp. It's a very simple ideology. Now, soup, on the other hand, only since it is a liquid, it passes through our mouth into our throat and into our stomach in liquid form, correct? Although you may even argue that it doesn't quite quench your thirst. So tell me, why would you drink soup if you're thirsty? I've never done that before, and I've not heard a single other human being ever tell me that in any other kind of story or perhaps in a fairy tale at one point. Now, I've heard on many occasions, more often than not, that soup is eaten to fill your stomach, to relieve your hunger, not quench your thirst. This argument is made, and people still kind of don't quite understand the concept. Now, you may try to look at other food products that are in liquid form, such as a smoothie. Well, it's quite clear to me that a smoothie would mostly be considered as a beverage, as a drink, as it is made with juices uh, of fruit and cream in some cases. And you could even possibly bring up the concept of liquefied food. And I mean, that's just an unnatural process being done. and it's not something that I quite am interested in getting into. My main focus today is going to be soup. So soup, as we know, is made with water, uh, broth of different kinds, chicken stock, beef stock, uh, bone broth, things like that. There's a there's a process involved that is called cooking, as we all know. Now, food is something that is cooked. Some beverages could be mixed together, and quite honestly, the definitions are quite unclear as to how to properly discrete the two. And this is where the argument unfolds. When you consider terms like eating and drinking and even slurping, because the term slurping is something that is very interesting. It is in a very gray area as to what it's considered. So soup, you pick it up with a spoon and then you slurp it out. You could also slurp noodles. You can also slurp pudding or even things like Jello. But you could pretty much hold anything in a spoon and then slurp it, I guess, if you're interested in that form of consumption. But the process goes further than that, as it is. I would say that slurping is something that is an action that involves putting something into your mouth while ingesting it going through your esophagus and into your stomach. That's what the process being involved should be at hand. Now, another question that's been raised in terms of the argument being the topic at hand right now is that when you drink water, when you drink a large collection of water, you probably have to go to the bathroom. You got to go number one. Now, soup, if you eat the soup, that's not going to make you go to the bathroom. It's not. So what we have said, what we have established now, is that soup relieves your hunger and it doesn't induce having to go to the bathroom. Whereas beverages, such as tea, soda, uh, whatever else, any other beverage, you drink enough of that, you're gonna have your thirst is then quenched. You're no longer thirsty, and you might quite possibly have to go to the bathroom soon after. Soup, again, is something that you eat. It doesn't matter, it shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter what is in the soup to to define what it truly is. Some smoothies, they have chunks of berries or nuts, things like that. But a smoothie itself, I would, and many others would consider as a beverage. Soup, with all sorts of other food in it, chicken, rice, things like that, that all has food in it, which is fine. But then you have other simply fluid kind of soups, liquid form, such as tomato soup. Um, I really don't know what else. I think like cream of mushroom. There's little bits of mushroom in it, but for the most part, it's all liquid. Those are soups where there's the most confusion, and that what the contents of the soup should not define it other than being soup. It's still soup. It is not considered any other product, any other food item. That doesn't declare it as being a beverage. Beverages are usually served cold. There's some hot ones, hot chocolate, coffee. Soup, there are some soups that could be served cold, like pumpkin soup, I just remembered. But for the most part, they're all going to be served warm, pretty hot, in a bowl. Now, other arguments can be made where soup could be served in a mug or in a thermos, most commonly uh, occurring. Soup from a thermos, which you would consume in the fashion of a regular beverage because it's held in a cup or some kind of container, and you bottoms up it. This action is served mainly for most other beverages that you drink. Now, again, the container should not qualify or change the state of the soup. The contents in the container don't change what it is. It's still soup. Now, Google argues this by saying as long as it's in a container such as a cup or a thermos, anything like that, it should be considered drinking. While I disagree with a lot of Google's definitions and logic, I can't quite grasp that concept as it does not change the properties of the soup itself. So we have since established that the contents of the soup and even the container of the soup do not change any of its physical wellness. It is still thoroughly soup, correct? The soup is a food that you eat when you are hungry, correct? Now, I will admit that there were not very available sources to me uh, regarding this topic, which is quite upsetting and actually does bring us here to this point. So I'm the sole one uh, formally addressing this issue and cordially bringing it into light and solving the issue. One of the sources that I was able to find, is a documentary which you could find on Hulu. It's like a documentary movie about ramen. The documentary discusses the top ramen chefs in Japan. All throughout it, these renowned restaurants, known for their ramen, known for their noodles, known for their broth, known for the work that they put in their craft, in their art. They, all throughout the documentary, each individual chef and worker involved, they each mentioned the words, which may sound familiar. They used words like eat. They've used words like food. They used words like hungry to describe the ramen, ramen being a soup. They were describing the food that they make. Not once did they ever use the word drink or thirsty, beverage. None of those words were ever used. And these were the top performing ramen chefs in all of Japan. I'd say that they know a thing or two about their work. All they know is ramen. Some of them admitted that they've eaten thousands of bowls in their lifetime, which is very understandable, as ramen is very good. Most other soups are really good, and that's, kind of what brings me into this position right now. So, those chefs mentioned in the documentary, without even knowing it, more of like a feeling, because again, they were very passionate about their work. They were using such words to describe the ramen. How is soup going to be any different from that? Soup is something that you eat. And that's basically going to be the end of my discussion. So again, you eat food when you are hungry, and you can drink a beverage when you are thirsty. Soup is consumed to fill your appetite and not to quench your thirst. Thank you.